Today's conversation is looking at content creation from a business owner's perspective that doesn't want to get on the tools but knows content is extremely important for the future of their business. And the reason why I'm covering that in this episode is tomorrow, which is Thursday, I'm going to be doing a session at the Chadstone Hotel in Melbourne with a group of business owners. By the time you're listening to this when it drops on Saturday, the session will have been done, but I'll run through the bones of what I'm covering. So if you're a business owner or you know someone who is a business owner, you can look at content creation objectively and how it can contribute to the success and growth of your business moving forward. The first thing that I'll kick off with is the block that most business owners have around content creation, which makes sense. If you're not in the marketing space, you've got all these different social media platforms, all these different content formats, all these different strategies, and then you've got people online telling you to post all the time, not post as much, quality over quantity, or just go for frequency. It gets extremely overwhelming, and if you're a business owner, content's probably towards the back end of your priority list when you've got all these other things on your plate. So it gets extremely confusing, and most business owners outside of the marketing industry probably feel blocked. And the goal of the session is to remove that block and have a clear next step to approach content marketing for your business. And the reality is, every single person tuning in to the show here has a different business, or they're a personal brand, and they have a different target audience and they have different solutions. So there's no cookie cutter approach that's going to solve all the problems for everyone. So we need to have a framework that helps a business owner draw their own conclusion when it comes to content marketing. I'm going to ask some strategic questions today. So if you do have a pen and some paper, or even the notes section on a device lying around, you might want to go through this process today in the podcast episode. We've got to look to the future to justify why we go down the content creation path. And if you're tuning into a content marketing podcast, you're probably already sold on the importance of it. But you look at handheld devices, you go sit on a train and just look around, you'll see 90% plus of people glued to their smartphone, iPad, whatever device they're on. And what are they doing on that device? They're engaging and interacting with content more often than not on social media, in searches, or listening to something. They're consuming content. And I think that trend's only going to increase. The technology may change. We may be doing it using different devices and different applications moving forward. But if your business isn't meeting people where their attention is, which is on these devices and in the format that they're consuming, which is content, then a competitor is going to do that, and they're going to take the market share. And it's going to be very hard for you to compete in the future when more and more of the next generations of buyers are going to these handheld devices to get their information and make decisions. So it's future-proofing your business, having a robust content strategy. We need to look at the mindset required for content creation success. And I've mentioned this many times on earlier episodes, but you look at podcasting, for example, 90% of people quit by episode 3. I think the same applies with content creation. Most people start posting, there's very little reward early, and then they stop doing that and they don't build the habit and can't see the long-term view. Whereas content is very much like investing. You put these micro deposits into your social media channels. You look at the interest statement in terms of reach, engagement, and there's not much to speak of when you're just starting out. But if you keep making deposits and you keep building up the principal and the balance, 6 months, 12 months, 24 months, 36 months down the track, all of a sudden the interest repayments, the reach, engagement, leads, traffic, all those things on the statement start to expand rapidly. And if you can just play the long game, you're going to outperform 99.9% of other businesses in your industry, and you're the one that's going to be reaping the rewards of that. So have that marathon mentality. And just like if you're going to go on a weight loss journey, if you go for a run or you go for a gym session, the weight doesn't just pour off after that first workout. So you've got to keep showing up and going again and again and again to get the transformation. So let's use content in the investor frame for the purpose of today's episode. And when we do that, we want to weigh up the risks and the rewards to justify the decision. And like I said, I'm pretty sure you're sold on content, or else you probably wouldn't be tuning into a show like this. But I think for business owners, there's a time risk in content creation. Fortunately, there's a lot of tools. You can hire a team and third parties and use softwares to condense that time. But for a lot of people, the time and energy and effort around content creation is a big block. Coming up with the ideas, the brain power required around that, then all those other strategic elements makes it very challenging to know, okay, what do I post? When do I do it? How do I do it? Where do I do it? The next one is the money. If you're going to invest money into content creation in your business, if the ROI takes a while to come through, some people find it hard to justify that because they're not willing to have that long-term mentality. So understand that. Then there's the perception of your business once you get out there. You're vulnerable, you're exposed, people can interact and start conversing online with your brand. So you get judgment, and your friends and family can see it if they're following along. So there's all these unconscious things happening that would stop a lot of people from putting their business or putting themselves out there if they're a part of that. And they're essentially the risk side of content when we look at it as an investment. But what are the rewards? I think the rewards are really important to understand as well, because this ultimately drives your decision to whether to go down the content route or not. Every time you post a piece of content, you're creating what I call a digital asset. Generally speaking, it has online real estate. It has a place in the online world, and more often than not, depending on where you've posted it, it has a URL, so it has a unique link to that piece of content. Now, if you're building quality digital assets, you're creating more and more places online that your target audience and your future clients can find and interact with your brand. So you can see how this starts to compound. If you don't have any digital assets, then no one can find you. But if you keep accumulating them, there's more and more opportunities to get discovered and found and interacted with. The next thing is the relationship building side of the equation. As we know, for people to purchase and transact with a brand, they need more and more touch points than previously in history. So what content does is it creates those touch points for you. If you're posting weekly or multiple times a week, each time you do that, even if the audience isn't directly consuming that piece of content, just by seeing you circulating in the newsfeed, you're starting to build up that frequency, which is really important. The next one is the expert gap. So by posting content, you're able to showcase how you're different to other solutions in the marketplace. What stands out makes you different, how you can solve problems differently to other competitors in your marketplace. So all of a sudden, it becomes clearer to the audience why they would choose you over a competing alternative. Now, if you're in a space where you charge a lot or you're in the high ticket game, people have these checkpoints that they want to tick off to ensure they're making the right purchasing decision. What content does, if they go look at your social media profile, they go search you on Google, they do all these steps, if they tick all those trust and desire boxes, it helps them move forward with the buying. However, if they're looking at making a large purchase and they go online, they go on social media and they can't find anything, it creates doubt, which can influence their decision to actually move forward and buy. So that's really important to understand about content. It also creates traffic. Each time you're putting content out there, it can drive traffic back to your business, back to your brand. Anyone that interacts and engages with the brand can ultimately become leads and future clients. One thing that gets overlooked for business owners is the power of recruitment. If your business is visible, you're sharing the projects, the work that you do, the team, the company values, then it makes it a lot easier to attract talent to the business than if you have no visibility in your industry. So it can actually be a great recruitment tool. And then finally, clients. If you do this long enough and sure enough, you have this inbound effect. I know as a content agency owner and someone that also posts a lot of content as Aaron Witnish online, we get inbound every single week now on the compounding nature of putting content out. So just about every day there'll be a message on one or more platforms through people, whether they've tuned into this show, whether they've stumbled across a video or something that we've posted online, and they're asking questions about how we can help or how we can solve their problems. And that's really important because that happens organically, and that's something that you can look forward to if you are consistent and build up this base of content and show up frequently in the marketplace. So let's go through and ask some questions and help remove that block and make it easier for you as a business owner to formulate the next steps with your content marketing plan. And we always want to do an 80-20 when there's so many different platforms, so many different paths you can go with content. What's the 20% effort that's going to produce 80% of the result and not the other way around? Because we could go chase 100 different rabbits, catch none, or we can zero in on where you're going to get the biggest impact in the shortest amount of time. So get a pen, paper, or the notes section on your phone and write down where is the number one platform your dream clients consume content. So if you're in a business-to-business space or a professional place, then it could be a platform like LinkedIn. If it's a very visual solution or product where aesthetics are important, it could be Instagram. If it's advisory or information-based where there's a lot of education involved, it could be a platform like YouTube. And another way to ask this question is, what is the primary platform you consume content on for your sector and for your industry? And that can help make it clear what's the number one platform to focus on for your content creation, because there's different formats that work differently on different social media channels. The next question to ask is, how are they consuming content? How is your audience, your dream clients, how do they like to consume content? Is it in articles and blog posts where they like to read and go deep with information? Is it tuning into podcasts and listening and getting their information that way? Is it watching videos and tutorials and getting educated? Is it the visual form of content where they like to see photos and interact and engage that way? If you can identify the platform and then the content format, you've solved two major pieces of the puzzle very quickly. The third question is, when are they consuming content? And this could be on their commute, in their way into work. It could be in the evening after the kids have gone down for the night. It could be during the day, on lunch breaks. Think about when you consume content and you go and browse and look for ideas and different information in your industry. That can often answer that question as well. And also, what days and what times of the week are the best to do that? You've answered three very important questions to start formulating a very simple content marketing strategy to create the next step for your business. So now we need to look at content assets. So sticking with the investor theme here, there are different formats of content that get very different results. Put them in two categories to simplify it. Long form content, which we've done a session on the podcast before, and short form content, which we've also done a episode on the podcast before. And the difference between the two are the performance outcomes. So long form content, giveaways in the name, we put in the effort to create this longer form of content. So it could be a video that's several minutes long, could be again an article or a blog post. And the goal with that piece of content is to continue performing well into the future in the search engines. And I'll unpack that for you. With short form content, it has a short life cycle. So you post it within 24, 48 to 72 hours. Its momentum starts to die down, but it's also how you can get very quick wins if you're starting with no followers, no audience, and a low base. And I'm going to talk to you about a 1-2 combo so you can get the best of both worlds. So to unpack long form content a little bit further, this is where we create content for what your audience and your target clients are heading to the Google search bar or the YouTube search bar and typing in and looking for information. So we're actually trying to cater a strategy that matches what they're actively searching for, what information they're looking at online. And I'll share a tool that I've shared before in a moment on that. So again, long form content styles, YouTube videos, podcasts, articles, even web pages that you have on your website that share a lot of information in detail, because that gets indexed and comes up on Google search results and blog posts. And ultimately, you want to rank highly for the keyword and what you're targeting, so you can get 24/7 search traffic. So you can imagine if, let's say, I was targeting AI marketing, and that was the keyword. Everyone that's searching for AI marketing on YouTube, as an example, I want to try and target them. If I get a top ranking in the first few results on YouTube, and there's hundreds of thousands of people searching for that every single month, then I'm going to get a lot of views and a lot of traffic and build a relationship with that audience a lot faster. And that's ultimately what we're looking to achieve with long form content. So what we need to do is understand what your target clients and audience are actually typing in to Google and into YouTube when they're making these searches. And reverse engineering the long form content with that in the back of our minds, and I will share how to do that. So if we're using the AI marketing example, if I want YouTube to go, okay, this video is about AI marketing, I need to have the word AI marketing in the title of my video. Also, so my audience, when they're searching and typing that into YouTube, if my title doesn't have AI marketing in it and they're looking for content on that, then they're probably going to scroll straight past that video because it doesn't mention it in the title. Then I want to also include the keyword or the search term AI marketing throughout the body and description of the content. Again, further telling YouTube in this example that show this piece of content to people that are searching AI marketing on YouTube. Then finally, I want to have AI marketing in the tags, just to reiterate and tell YouTube to show this particular video to people that are searching for AI marketing on YouTube. And that's the essence, and that's the strategic side of how you set up long form content to rank for what your target audience is searching for online. Short form content is quite different in that it's interruption content. So that's designed when people are scrolling through their feed on social media, that we actually stop them in their tracks because they see something that's of interest to them and they want to interact with it. So unlike where we're targeting what people are searching for, with short form content, we're trying to get someone's attention while they're scrolling and moving through the feed on a particular social media channel. Some examples of short form content, lives, you've got reels on Instagram and Facebook, you've got stories which you can update throughout the day on most platforms now, you've got posts that aren't blog or article length, you've got sliders, so when you've got multiple visual graphics that people can swipe right and move through those infographics, and then you got things like polls. And as I mentioned, strategies like using reels and shorts on YouTube, if you don't have a follower base or an audience yet, you can get some very quick wins with that style of content. You can get thousands of views even without an audience right from the outset. So if you want to get some instant gratification or some reinforcement from creating content, that's a really powerful way, if it's appropriate for your audience, to get some quick wins on the board. With short form content, what we're trying to do is get targeted reach. So we want to get in front of your audience and your target clients, but we also want them to engage and interact. So they're the two primary focuses when we create this style of content. And there's 4 T's that we use strategically to optimize for this. So the title, again, is really important that we use in the short form content. Then we have the thumbnail, which is the visual. So when people are scrolling, they see a thumbnail, it gets their attention by being relevant to what they're looking for and a title that matches that. Then we have the hashtags. So we use the hashtags to give our content the best chance of showing up to our audience. We want to make sure that hashtag is also relevant to the content that we're posting, and we use 3 to 5 of those on most platforms when we're posting content. And then the timing, if we can put content out when your target audience is actually on the social media platform, there's a much higher chance of it getting engaged and interacted with. So the 4 T's, titles, thumbnails, tags, and timing, are how we get short form content to perform. Now, you've heard probably the word algorithm thrown around, and it gets talked about a lot, but ultimately how that works, and I'll talk about it in the context of both forms of content, is it's clicks and retention. So whenever a piece of content goes onto a platform, it's going to get measured by, okay, what percentage of people are stopping and clicking on this content? That's the first step, which tells, okay, are people responding to this? And then number 2 is the retention. So are people staying, engaging, and interacting with this content? So the more clicks and the longer the retention, the more people that content is going to get shown to. And the opposite is also true. If no one's clicking on it and no one's been retained and engaging with it, then it's going to go, okay, this isn't relevant to people. We're not going to show it to anyone else. So creating quality content and getting it to the right people is super important for the algorithm. And we'll talk about how you can do a few things to heighten that in this conversation. So now we understand the fundamentals or the principles that go behind creating the 2 different content assets, long form and short form. How do we, as a business owner, get this content created without you getting on the tools, getting in the trenches and doing all the heavy lifting? So a consideration with AI and technology like that, a lot of duplicate content is going to get created. So if someone like me goes to ChatGPT and says, can you give me 5 posts on content marketing tips? chances are someone else has asked ChatGPT that question before, and there'd be thousands of duplicate posts with the exact same wording out there on the online world. So it's vanilla and it's not original. So if we can do the 20% and use tools like AI to do the 80%, then we can stay original and authentic while everyone else is churning out the same stuff, which gives us a massive advantage in the online world. So to help create content that's original and gets people's attention, there's an acronym that I've shared before, which is called REVS. So REVS. And R is for relevant, making sure that it's relevant for your target audience, for your sector, for your industry. E is entertaining. So if you can entertain people and keep them engaged, they'll tend to stick around and work their way through that content. So you could use a human narrative and tone. If you're writing posts in a video, you can have it move quickly. You can use a little bit of humor, evoke a little bit of emotion. And V, valuable, solving problems, sharing tips and tricks, leaving people better than they were when they stumbled across the content. So ultimately becoming a thought leader and the go-to for information and help in your space. And then the S is for social proof. So that's documenting and showcasing your capabilities. It could be working with clients, their testimonials, your team, projects that you're working on. If you can combine these REVS elements, you don't have to use all of them on a piece of content, but if you use one or two, it's probably going to help your content perform better than if you're missing those ingredients. So if you're the business owner, how do we get this content created without drawing you into it? So you need a team, or you need these tools and technology to assist. But what I recommend is whoever's doing it for you needs to batch it. So there's either a monthly, it could be a quarterly or a weekly block where they sit down and they create all that content in one session. Because if you try and do it on the fly, other priorities take over and it tends not to happen. And that consistency wears off, which is ultimately the key to success, having that consistent habit where the content's going out and having that relationship built with your target audience. So if we batch it, we know it's done and we can have a set and forget strategy. So the tools that your team can use to get the content ideas for their batching session: Google Keyword Planner. This will tell your team what everyone is searching for on Google, and you can see what people are typing in to that Google search bar. And then, as I said, if we optimize for those searches, so take those keywords, that's how we can try and rank highly for the Google search results and have that long form content asset. There's Google Trends, so you can see what's trending in your industry or niche and get ideas of topics that are increasing in popularity and ride that wave and create content around that. And then we have vidIQ, which is great for YouTube video ideas and targeting what your clients are searching for on that search platform. So if you took let's use the keyword investing, while we're looking at this from an investor's standpoint as a business owner. If you take that over to vidIQ, for example, put it in, you'll get hundreds of search results for what people are typing into the YouTube search bar when they're looking for content on investing. And then you look for the ones that have a high level of searches and low competition, because if there's low competition and a lot of searches, if we target that keyword, and let's say dividend investing is an example of a keyword in front of me here that has 56,000 monthly searches and low competition. Might not be something that someone could create content around, but just as an idea, if you had that in your title, in the body, in your piece of content, you're using it throughout the video and in your tags, then you've set yourself up to rank for that when thousands of people are looking for it and there's not a lot of competition. So if you get on the top rankings because people are clicking on your video and they're being retained, they're actually working their way through and staying with the content, then you can have this asset that keeps giving you traffic and views for years and years to come. And it can transform your business. Just one high ranking piece of content can change the game for a lot of people. So that's how we optimize the long form content asset and get ideas to create it. Now, I mentioned a 1-2 combo. So if we're doing the 20%, which is creating the long form, we can use AI to get the other 80% done, which is the short form. There's some really cool tools and tricks. So we can get the best of both worlds. We've got our search results from our long form content where we're targeting Google and YouTube and platforms like that and getting the long-term organic traffic results. But then we can get our short form content for that fast-paced 24, 48, 72 hour results, we're getting quick traction and quick interaction with our target audience. So to repurpose text, you get your team to take the blog post or the article to a tool like ChatGPT, and it can repurpose it. If you give it a very simple instruction like cut this blog post into 5 engaging social media posts, here is the blog post, and then paste it in, within 5 seconds, ChatGPT is going to give you those 5 social media posts that is repurposed from your article that you've written. So it also helps keep it original and authentic because it's repurposed it from words that you've typed, not from the learning machine that everyone else is collecting content from. So that's a really fast way to do the 20% effort. Write an article, write a blog post, and then get your short form content for social media by heading to a tool like ChatGPT and instructing it to repurpose it into multiple shorter posts for social media. On the video front, we spoke about this in, I think, last week's episode. You can take a long YouTube video to a tool called Opus Clip, give it to Opus Clip, and then in about 10 minutes, it's going to cut between 3 and 10 shorts or reels that you can repurpose onto social media. So from that effort of having a deeper conversation, adding value on a topic that your audience and target clients are searching for on YouTube, you just simply give it the URL, it'll do its magic, and within 10 minutes you've got those clips that are ready to go out with captions, with emojis, and can be a super valuable way to get that 80-20 result from your content creation strategy. And if you want a tutorial on Opus Clip, there's one on the YouTube channel. I'll put it in the description for the episode. So if you want to see how that works, just go to the notes and it'll be in there for you. So the big question, if you're a business owner, how much content? So we understand a lot more now by going through this conversation today. The big question, everyone asks, how much content should I post? Well, just like if you were starting a fitness program from scratch and you had a long way to go, if you hadn't been exercising, the goal would be just to go for that first walk around the block. So the invitation is to post that first piece of content. And then the goal from there should be to create a habit where you have a set frequency, whether that's once a week, however many times a week, and by using batching, that should make it easier to achieve that. So you've got this habit of batching, and then you start increasing the consistency. Now, if you've been creating content already, how can you optimize it and increase the quality based on some of the things that we've mentioned in this episode? What can you do to make it better so you get more clicks, more engagement, more interaction, so it increases the performance? So we're not necessarily doing more, we're enhancing the quality so we can get better return on our effort with the content. Now, if you're deep into the content creation process and you've been doing it at a high frequency, high volume, high quality for a long period of time, then how can you become the number one in your industry, the number one business, the number one brand, the number one thought leader? I would go to whoever has that mantle at the moment, unpack how many times a week they're posting, what formats they're posting, what they're doing with their content, and then the goal is to simply outperform that, to post more often, to post at a higher standard, and over time gradually overtake them as the number one in the space. So let's summarize this quickly. We want to have that long-term view and look at content creation as an investor with that mindset. It's a marathon. If we start posting today and we build a habit, our business is going to be in a very different position 12, 24, 36 months down the track. And we have a massive edge over our competition, especially if they're not taking that mentality on board and they're showing up sporadically. You know which platform, hopefully if you wrote that down when we went through today's episode, to focus on and just start creating content for that one platform. Then you know how, what format are you going to use? Is it video? Is it articles? Is it written? Is it short form? So you know the different types of content assets that you can start creating your content in, and then the timing. When are you going to post it during the week that's most likely to get in front of your target audience? And then take the 1-2 combo strategy where you're getting the best of both worlds, long form and short form, using the 80-20 model, and that can build your content assets for your business. But most importantly, as a business owner, you're delegating this process and getting your team and using technology and tools to do it for you.